We are back after a bit of a hiatus. So we just saw a week ago. We saw The Incredibles 2,
Yeah.
and we unfortunately were not able to do an immediate reaction video. But so what we're going to do is we're going to do a this is our just our regular review right now, and then we'll give you a spoiler warning in a few minutes, and you can cut out or not. So,
Yep.
Alex, what'd you think?
So I definitely liked it. It was very cute film. I liked one thing that I can say is I like how Pixar does a movie a little animated
right. Yeah,
film before
the
the movie.
shorts.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shorts. This definitely reminded me of I forget which movie did it, but there's a dog, a guy, and a lady.
It was called. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And the dog was upset because the girlfriend ruined his
But
his good time.
Just very similar to the one within Incredibles 2. The story goes with no dialogue, and it's all done just with kind of a visual humor and very similar to the dog of food. The expression of like.
Well, it was actually interesting because I remember being in the theater and it was a very charming short film. It didn't really do it for me. I was kind of waiting for the actual movie to start, but the people were laughing at the right moments.
Oh,
and,
yeah. I thought
clearly everybody was engaged. Yeah.
It just basically definitely go see it. I thought it was a neat like little ad to have.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of with older films during
Yeah.
like how you would have Betty Boop or like
Sure.
that kind of time.
But to direct it back to the movie we're actually reviewing,
Right.
so The Incredibles.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was definitely worth the wait.
Yeah. It definitely had some parts where it was like I think the first one had a little bit stronger within its story, its narrative, but this kind of reminded me of like culturally speaking of like the 1950s of how women were maybe looking to get into the workplace.
Yeah, I can
and
feel
it almost
that.
kind of felt like it was kind of a homage to that of like how the father is generally the person that is the superhero, the one that's the breadwinner.
I would call this a superhero version of Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it had really good superhero moments, good action. It starts out as a family story and then gets into the superheroics, and it never really lets up. I mean, like they're seamlessly intertwined, and I really enjoyed it.
It didn't feel like there was a part A, part B story like what a lot of television does, where like to fill in the time of the 22 minutes of airtime, shows will basically have a side A, side B, and Simpsons are really known for a lot of that, where it's like
Star Trek.
Star Trek, where it's like, okay, this is going on at the same time as this other thing's going on. Sometimes it might actually interconnect, and a lot of times it just these are two separate stories.
Well, Star Trek had to do it because they had such a huge cast,
Right?
But in this case, I mean, like,
everybody was doing something.
Yeah, because you had the storyline for the family, and to a degree, the kids had their own plot separate from Dad, and then you had the story with Elastigirl,
Right?
And then periodically Frozone would show up, and I don't know, just like I don't know what else to say except that I just loved the movie. It was so well executed. Even though the actors are 14 years older, you didn't feel like they missed a beat. Like it literally came in straight from the end of the first movie and picked up where you left off. The two movies, I think, are actually a complete story. It
would have been definitely interesting if they changed the gap of time and basically had like that 14 years that we had to wait.
Well, but the thing is like you could pick up where you left off. I think they knew they could. But to be able to have the 14-year gap in the story in real time, you'd have a completely different movie. and you'd literally be starting over from scratch to make to win over your audience. And in this case, the audience is hungry for the sequel. They've been hungry for the sequel for 14 freaking years. There's a reason why people say that The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made, and they have still been saying it for 14 years.
Right.
And there's actually I think the movie's pretty solid. There are two mistakes in the movie that I found. There's one plot hole and one just blatant error. Just a blatant error. But I think they know they did it, but I think they could get away with it because they knew people were so invested in the film.
I take it this is going to be closer to our spoiler section when
this
you
will be
say it.
this will be in the spoiler section. But it does have one continuity plot hole, and only one, and it's pretty blatant actually. It's actually surprising me that nobody's caught these two mistakes. Honestly, but that's also a testament to how good the movie is because how much people have enjoyed it. Like I've heard reviews, nobody seems to have caught these two mistakes, but yet everybody's obviously enjoyed it, been so invested in it that they didn't care.
Well, I think we should probably wrap up on our spoiler-free version of this video.
How many Fantastic Four flaming logos are you going to give it?
I give it one each for all characters, so 20 flaming 4 logos.
Okay, by the way, I have a surprise for you.
Oh, okay.
That I just found out yesterday.
Yeah?
Which is totally breaking news. Of course, will be too late to reveal it, but Disney actually bought Fox yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So Disney now owns the Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Wow. That's definitely going to make it interesting for the movies going on forward. So is Phoenix Wright, whatever the movie, I object. Movie is going to actually come out.
All the movies that are still in progress are going to come out.
So what is that? New Mutants.
New Mutants will come out next year. Phoenix is coming out some point soon, and we probably will still get X-Force. But because X-Force X-Force is money
under Fox.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I guess we'll get into this a little bit. I've actually been meaning to double check it though, because like it was all over. Like people were like, "Oh my god, the deal went through," but I actually completely forgot to double check it separately. So I guess I'll do that in between videos.
Right.
Whatever. I got a new. I had to get a new phone, and it's like it works a little differently than what I was used to. So,
but
okay,
so I gave it 420.
420.
Yeah.
420.
Yeah, because there's 5 characters and there's on the 4 logos flaming.
Okay, right. Okay.
So what's your review?
Well, this is a 5 out of 5 movie, absolutely. I'm totally going to buy the DVD when it comes out. Actually, right now, I kind of wish that my friend's kid had not lost my copy of The Incredibles because I wanted to. Actually, okay, so I had, when it first came out, I bought the DVD, right, and then I ended up sharing it with our friend Jeff. At the time, his daughter was like 2 or 3 or something. No, probably 4 because she's 18 now. So, yeah. So, a couple weeks later, Jeff shows up with a copy of The Incredibles. He's like, "Oh, I bought it," even though he knew I had loaned it to Cassandra, and they somehow lost my copy. And I'm like, is the one on the shelf mine? And Jeff just somehow forgot and thought that he bought it. That's so like Jeff to make a mistake like that. Is that my movie or actually?
Well,
okay. Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
Okay.
Danger! Spoilers.
Yeah. So we're going to get into spoiler territory in the movie. We're not going to hold anything back. So if you don't want to be spoiled, and why haven't you seen it yet? Click off and come back later.
Yep. So this spoiled milk will go into what the movie, and some additional thoughts. So the 2 points.
2 points. Okay. Now at the end of the first movie, right? Now we know that the babysitter discovered that Jack had superpowers.
Right.
And the parents missed it because they were in the middle of their adventure. Right, and the FBI agent got a hold of the kid or the babysitter and wiped her memory. Okay, why didn't he tell the parents?
No, I get you. I mean,
that's kind of a plot hole.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Like, wouldn't he have told the parents that their kid had superpowers, or would he have just assumed that they knew? Because he clearly knew.
That could actually kind of explain it. It's like that. I assume that hey, this is your kid. You probably know the simple fact that he's got a rainbow of powers.
Yeah, and the guy seems pretty bored, but I mean, he's clearly too old for the job.
Right.
But it's an interesting point. It's never addressed in The Incredibles 2. In fact, it's one of those deals where like when the kid's powers are going crazy, just absolutely blatantly crazy, right? And then Syndrome gets a hold of the kid, and the kid, of course, goes crazy on him. How did the parents not notice then? I thought that they noticed. And somehow, like, and you telling me that the kid's powers quieted down for the next 2 days? Or for the next week, for that matter? Because clearly there was like a week. It's probably about a good week in between, or maybe 2, or even a month in between that scene where the destruction of their house. Because they lose their house, right?
Yeah.
Clearly they've been put up in the motel the whole time. Then they're actually doing stuff with their kids, and Dash is in the sporting event. So we don't know how much time elapses there, and they don't know that Jack Shack has superpowers.
Gosh, yeah,
You see the point I'm making? Yeah. So it's a plot hole in the extreme.
Right.
I mean, I suppose the powers kicked in, and then they just didn't again. And then he got a little older, and suddenly he has them again. But it's
I guess that's the question comes up is like, how does this world really work? Like, they never really go into the detail of like, were these astronauts that blasted off and got hit by cosmic rays?
Well, we know they have superpowers. You don't know necessarily how they got them, but like presumably people are born with them. And actually, I don't know if you ever saw any of the special features on the DVD of the original one, but they showed an animatic of a previous version of the script that they had done while they were doing some tests, and it was a story point that had been edited out. But one of the things that they had done was the idea that Syndrome had destroyed their house.
Oh.
And he discovers that they have kids, because he finds out this is a different version of the script, obviously, what we got. But he ends up discovering and that the Parr family knows who they are and sees their kids and sees their kids have powers. Like, oh my God, you're breaking the law. Superheroes aren't allowed to have children.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That would have definitely made for a very different kind of film.
Yeah, because it could be that that superpowers naturally occur in their society, but because supers can have kids, maybe that they're not allowed to have children because of the risk that they might have, they might breed a super race.
No, and I get it, and it's like that definitely makes me think of if that original script went through. There's a comic series known as The Boys, and
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Oh, I've read all the entire run, and I have to say it's like it is a very interesting take of like how the superhero the way that they're created, the way that the world is, the changes. I thought it was a really interesting like take of like how it felt like the events that happened in our world would have definitely changed, which is kind of that level of like how I feel like Watchmen. It was very much like The Watchmen, opposed to like how in a lot of times with Marvel and DC, where you have this almost laziness of like, okay, current events still happen, but yet these godlike beings should be able to do things to change and alter.
But that's what's nice about The Incredibles, is it does impact the world.
Yes. And I mean, that's like my point about like The Boys. And it is definitely like, if you're the type of person that's watching or like age appropriate for Incredibles 2, The Boys is not. The Boys is very graphic, and it is very violent in its thing, but it's like it is still a great read.
Yeah, well, string it back to the movie. I think what was going on was that, so kind of getting back to the genetics aspect of it, probably if you are a human and a super having a kid, right, then, there's at best you might have 50% chance of having a superhuman kid. But I think that the risks of having super children, if your both parents are supers, goes up dramatically. And again, you could create a super race. But I suspect, being a Disney movie, right?
Yeah.
They didn't go that route because suddenly that makes it a darker world.
Right.
And this is a family movie, and then that movie
Well, and
was
that's
hidden,
a mixed thing because
like they had so many deaths in the first one to begin with,
But I mean, that is that thing of like Disney of like there are a lot of dark aspects within like a lot of their various films, but at the same time, there is still that kind of how much in the foreground do you put it?
Well,
I mean, it's like Zootopia was a great example of like going from a place of almost like the 1960s where there's no equality to like a level of there was racism and various other social changes that happened within the film.
Yeah. Well, you have like Disney movies, they have their dark aspect, but I think it probably is a reflection of life,
Right. Yeah.
real life. But you wanted to know about my other plot
Yes.
hole.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Now, in the movie, we have a villain called the Screenslaver, who is actually, it's a misdirect for who the actual villain is, and is actually like a puppet. But this, so in the course of the story, they basically, the idea is to use PR and marketing techniques, whatever, to basically reintroduce the ideas of superheroes, to change the perception of superheroes so they get legalized. And there's a particular individual who's a corporate guy who's a big fan of superheroes, and it turns out his sister is not. And so and she decides she's the actual real villain. Evil endeavors, it's great. But
it's like I thought it was a really interesting way of like that once again, like the impact of the world and like the like the motivation was definitely there of what the different points of view, and also of like how the same experience could actually come up with two different outcomes of like how because this is the spoiler part.
Yeah,
their parents get killed by criminals, and this is also
very much in a Peter Parker sort of way.
Right, yeah. And this is very much within the time period where, just like in the first movie, where superheroes had become outlawed because of, their potential problems and whatnot, and their father was very much a pro superhero type person to the point of almost a flaw. Where
he could have gone to the panic room, instead he went to
right. So he had an opportunity to basically save himself, and not get shot and killed.
And by the way, did you notice that he went to Gazerbeam to get help?
Yeah,
but Gazerbeam couldn't help him because Gazerbeam had been murdered by that point.
Oh yeah. I kind of forgot about that. But
getting back. Okay, so. Evelyn, the sister, was part of this project, and she had hooked up.
So she's a tech genius.
Yeah, tech genius. And by the way, it's interesting. The tech level of this world is higher because of the supers, with the way it should be. But she provides Elastigirl
I agree with that
with a super bike. She gets a new suit, which of course pisses off the girl. What was her name again? Last name was Mode.
Oh.
That little midget lady that makes all the super suits, and Edna.
Right. Yes.
Edna Mode. So she gets mad because somebody else made the super suit, but the super suit had a body cam, and the idea was to show, to basically make it transparent, right? So people saw there's nothing to fear. They said that the heroes were actually trying, and you couldn't spin it because the media was spinning against superheroes.
Right.
And that affected public opinion, right?
God, it's like, to some regard, Charles Xavier should have really put like some micro cameras on.
But there's a
part, right at the X. Just
now,
bam.
Evelyn provides Elastigirl with a device that can track the signal back to Screenslaver's hideout, which is hidden in an apartment building, right? And so it turns out, of course, she's like, no, this is how you find the tech that I set up, But she's doing this, and then she finds the room where where the Screenslaver puppet, and it's all mind control technology is being used. But what ends up happening is that it was actually, interestingly enough, a trap to capture Elastigirl, but there were contingency plans either way. But there was a computer screen in there that was hooked up to her body cam, so that Screenslaver could see where she was.
Right.
Okay, and that was actually the part that got that tipped off Elastigirl to what actually happened and who the real villain was.
Yeah.
A little bit too late. Again, I love the James Bond elements of
Yes.
this. but if you notice, like, okay, so you and I are watching this screen as we're recording our video, okay? So what the people who are watching this video see is what we actually look like, but what we see is reversed.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
This is not photoshopped.
Exactly. But no, for us, the screen is reversed.
He is.
Yes, right. But the people who watch this video will see what we actually are, right? The writing is the correct way, right? But we see it backwards, which means that screen, if it was a direct feed from the body cam, right, should have been reversed.
Yeah, no.
In the movie, and it wasn't. It was actually because you had a screensaver like this, and the one on the screen was like this, but it should have been the other way. And I saw that in the movie, and I'm like, what? Oh my God, because if it was pre-recorded, it would have been correct. Sort of, but like it was a direct feed, which means it had to be reversed. Like it should have been the other way. And it was just one of those little things where like you needed it to look wrong because Screenslaver is right there with it. It was kind of like the effect from Spaceballs, right?
Oh yeah, where it just goes
into infinity, and they needed that effect, because it's a visual cue for the plot, but if they did it the correct way, it wouldn't have worked. And people, the average movie viewer would have looked at it and be like, something would have been wrong about the scene that would have made them feel weird, and they wouldn't have known what it was, but something would be off, and it would distract people. It would be a point that would distract you from the plot of the movie,
right,
at the wrong time. But for me, I'm looking at it and I'm distracted because for the wrong reason. So, but but the only two mistakes in the whole movie are the issue with Jack and that. I think other than those two little points,
right,
flawless movie, But and by the way, how many deaths did you count in that movie? How many people do you think died?
Only the father.
Right.
But granted, that's a flashback.
Well, the origin story, right? He didn't actually die in the movie,
right?
But an origin story death is a gimme.
Yeah, yeah. But as like other various characters, if you really wanted to get into that, if like origin wise, then in the first movie, only one character really dies.
Yeah,
because everything else is flashback.
In the first movie,
yeah, everything else is flashback.
No,
because capes.
Not that. You remember the chase scene?
Oh.
I remember when I watched the first movie, I'm like, hey, like Mr. Incredible takes the James Bond travel car, turns into a ball and throws it and nails the guard, right? And I'm like, did that guy just die? and then he keeps going and he nails a couple other guys. Like, okay, dude's got super strength. He punches that dude. That's not a concussion, okay? He caved that guy's head in, and then it goes over and over and over again, and then we get to Dash, this little kid, and you see like totally like doing the stuff from Endor, and those vehicles are blowing up, and he keeps going, and it's just like, I lost count. I could not keep up with the number of deaths that were going on in that movie, and we're not even talking about the cape scene.
Right.
No capes, right? Okay. There were I think that stuff just slid under the radar. I bet the censors at Disney didn't even catch that, right? But everybody else did. I bet they had an order from on high that nobody dies because there was one flashback death, or origin story death,
right,
which every Disney has an origin story death. So that's a gimme. There were no other fatalities in the movie that I saw.
Well, I was kind of surprised for Disney wise that it was a father, not a mother, because a lot of times, maybe it's just the simple fact for princesses that their father lives and their mother.
Yeah. But it was it's compared to the other movie, it was so bloodless. I figured nobody was going to die in this one. I didn't think they were going to allow it, but damn.
Mm-hmm.
So the ending was, all the action scenes were totally on point. This is such a good superhero universe, and there's people clamoring for more. Would you want to see a third one?
To a certain regard, I think it could be similar to Big Hero 6, and I could almost see going into the direction of on Disney DX, they're doing a animated series of Big Hero 6.
Is it just as good as the original movie?
I haven't actually had a chance to really take to more than just like the fact of seeing little clips and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it has the same kind of voice actors and the progression of like what they did in it.
Well, Big Hero 6 and The Incredibles could be in the same universe.
I could definitely see that. I mean, like with especially with the city that they got. I mean, that had such a unique feel, and also it feels like it would have been the aftermath of like what happened during Incredibles.
Yeah,
because
it could have happened. That movie would take place after, like, around the same time as Incredibles 2, when superheroes are legal again.
Well, yeah. The only thing is, like, I could say that Big Hero 6 being later is it definitely did not feel like it was 50s or 60s.
No.
I would definitely say, maybe early 2000s.
Well, they leave the time frame of all three of these movies very vague.
Right. And I think that's a really actually smart part of like having it where it's like there's elements that are very iconic to certain time periods, but at the same time, it's
kind of timeless.
Right. And it's also its own unique universe. And I think that's a smarter way to go of, like, once again, like my statement about Marvel and DC of like a lot of their various things, it's, okay, these current events are happening and we're shoehorning them in. But at the same time, there's been so many like X-Men comics that I've read and you've read where it's like, okay, why hasn't the world kind of changed from the fact that, or like these events are only just being put in because like, that's what's currently happening.
It's weird because the speed of comics production doesn't match the real world, and it shouldn't.
And then like when you say it's like, okay, this president or these events are happening, and yet like several issues before that, like there was a whole different administration, or like different events going on that were from like a different time period.
Well, you got the Savage Dragon actually follows like the same speed of real time, which is like 12 issues. That comic book is 12 months out of the year, which is not bad that you can do that. But Samuel Jackson is pushing for a Frozone movie.
That could be interesting.
And I don't want to wait 14 years for a sequel.
Okay, how about compromise? Let's make it 7.
I would like to see a sequel sooner, but then it's like why rush it if it's going to be garbage?
No, and I mean that is definitely one thing that I think the two of us could really say is that there is that mix.
I just saw the movie poster. Look, Mr. Incredible's got a papoose, and his kid's firing off eye lasers from the freaking papoose.
But there is definitely something within that difference between. I know as for studios and whatnot, this is like the difference between like how Pixar is versus like how other various studios. You've got something that is like a quality product that you are moving forward with. Yeah. That you basically put, the right type of creative staff
Except
to basically make
sequels. Like your sequels are kind of like just cash grabby, but this one wasn't a cash grab,
right?
Which
but I mean it's like that's a different from like some of the other various movies, but and that's kind of the thing of like and that is the problem of like, oh my god, we made this awesome thing. Everybody's hungry for like the next thing. Yeah. And do we just crap out something that people just go like, cool?
Brad Bird had an interview where he got really snippy about the idea of making a third one. And then he, I guess later interviews he was a bit less. But I mean, there's going to be, I think the way Disney is now, they're going to have to do something. Okay, so we need to start wrapping it up. We're running out of time. Interesting fun fact: budget $200 million for the movie. It made $328 million in its first week.
Yeah, so I mean that's for first week. That's
pretty good. So yeah, well, I guess we'll call the video there. If you like this, please click the like button, share it, subscribe, email it to your grandma or whatever.
Social media.
Yeah, And yeah, social media, wonderful. Yeah, so
Sociopathic media.
yeah, and if you want to support what we're doing, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Woody Makes Comics. It allows us to produce more comic book content for everybody, and
and videos like this,
and videos. Yeah, to help with the videos at some point. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Bye.